What's up, everyone? I'm Nathan Graham Davis, and I just re-broke in as a Hollywood screenwriter. So if you're watching this, you probably already know some of my story and my background. But just in case, to catch you up, I started writing screenplays something like 17 years ago. And after 7 or 8 years, I finally got to the point where I wrote a script that landed me a manager, got my foot in the door. We ended up optioning that script, and I took meetings with Hollywood execs and producers all across town, started working with a few of them on various projects, and all of that was great. Seemed like I was well on my way toward a real career in Hollywood. And then, after a couple years of that, I suddenly found that every single project I was part of just was crashing and burning. On top of that, I wrote a new spec that my manager didn't want to take it out. We couldn't agree on the next thing that I should write, and I was just like, I'm done with this. So I ended up parting ways with my manager and just kind of kissed screenwriting goodbye. I focused on my day job and my family. I wrote a graphic novel, which I co-created with DC and Marvel artist Jack Purcell. Wrote a bunch of short stories, and I thought that was pretty good. I was happy with that. But today is August 8th, 2021, and a year ago, my good friend Mike Morin got in touch with me on Facebook, and he said, hey, I know screenwriting ain't your thing anymore, but can I bounce a log line off of you? And so those words, I know screenwriting ain't your thing anymore, they burned at me. I guess I didn't realize it at the time. I hadn't written a script in years, but screenwriting was still very much a part of my identity. I wanted to make movies. I had this burning desire to do that, no matter how long it had been lying dormant. And so, that just kind of ate at me for a few days, and a few days later, a year ago today, I had the idea for my re-entry series, and I have been going hard at trying to re-break in since then, and it's kind of worked. So it's been a wild year, and let me just catch you up on what has happened since then. So first of all, I completed my re-entry series. That was honestly one of the hardest things I've ever done. I had to get up at 4:30 a.m. every single day. I swear there were 3 days in 6 months that I got up later than that. It was really insane. But in order to knock out hour-long YouTube videos every single week, get these interviews in, and then also write a spec script during that time while being a dad and having a day job, yeah, that's what it took, and it was intense. So got it done, and I learned a ton. There were 25 pro screenwriters that I interviewed through all of that, and their insights were amazing. By the end of that series and by the end of that script, I absolutely was a better writer than I had been before, and it was well worth it. To cap that series off, we did a live streamed reading of that script. It was called Aether, and I had amazing cast members that came on board and just kind of made those roles their own. I'd never had a movie of my made before, and it was so fun to experience that and to do it live. Super cool. A month or two after that, I actually got offered a small assignment. I was honored by that. I ultimately turned it down. I didn't completely gel with the concept, and although it was real money, it wasn't enough to justify putting my other projects on hold. But it was the first real validation that I was on the right track to kind of re-breaking in, and so that was super exciting. Somewhere in there, I got promoted at my day job, which has been awesome. I really like this new job. There's a lot to learn, and so it's kind of this weird double-edged sword where the flexibility of this new job as far as my schedule goes should provide more time to write, but also there's this balance of trying to get that done while also learning everything that I need to know to be good at my day job, and that's just as important because that's what puts food on the table for my family. So figuring that out has been tricky, but I think long term it's going to be an awesome thing, and I'm super grateful for it. Beyond that, so I got an 8 on the blacklist. I'm going to do a longer episode on that because I know there are a lot of eyes on the blacklist. I know a lot of people have questions. They've used it before. And my experience with that has been really great, but definitely some caveats in there that I want to dig into on a deeper level. But anyway, I got that 8. It was not on Ether. It was on a script called Aftermath that I wrote years ago. and I got a huge signal boost on like Twitter and other social media. Thank you to all of you who were like retweeting it and commenting on it, because I think that just sparked the whole Twitter algorithm, and I got a ton of downloads on the Blacklist site, as well as a ton of DMs on Twitter from like legit managers and executives and producers who wanted to read it. So that was amazing, and ultimately that heat resulted in Jeff Belkin at Zero Gravity reading Aftermath, liking it. He then read The Continuum and Ether, and we connected, and we are now working together, and he is awesome. He's already provided some really incredible insight, and I'm super excited to work with him. So that's a huge, really cool development. On top of that, I signed with Bradley Garrett over at Cohen Gardner, the law firm. Really excited to work with him as well. And as a result of everything that's come together, I now have 2 deals in process on 2 different scripts, which is amazing. So, you know, a year to the day since I kind of conceived of this whole reentry thing, I've kind of broken back in, and it's incredible. I'm feeling super grateful right now, and could just not be happier about it or more thankful for all the support that I've had along the way. So that probably sounds like a lot of bragging, and I'll be honest, I am stoked about all this stuff and really excited to share it with people. But also, you know, I've been trying to be transparent throughout this whole series, and I want to be honest about the struggles that I've had along the way. So the first of which was after I finished this whole reentry thing, I was so fucking burned out. Again, I told you that I was getting up at like 4:30 a.m. every single day to make this work. Getting 5-6 hours of sleep for 6 months straight. That's just not the way my body operates. And by the end of that, I was pretty trashed. So, you know, it was really hard to get back into a routine, to get back to writing. Frankly, I'm still not getting up early consistently right now, but I need to do that again soon because I've got all this work on my plate again. So that'll be happening. But yeah, it was really challenging. You know, one thing that had been important to me from the outset of reentry that I had planned on being consistent with was maintaining my fitness. I didn't do great with that. I gained like 20 pounds and still haven't lost it. If you look at me now versus the first video, it's kind of obvious. I can still run, I can still mountain bike, but not as fast as before, and that's something that I really want to focus on again because I just think it helps keep everything clearer up here, and that is important. Beyond that, depression is something that I've struggled with my entire life, ever since I was probably like 10. You know, I go in and out of it. Like, sometimes I'm really up for a month straight, and then like it just comes in like a crushing wave. You know, I have different triggers for that, but a lot of them are like really related to my work. Like I put so much self-worth into my work, especially creative efforts, but really anything that I'm working hard on and care about deeply. And so, you know, this reentry series that I did, the finished product came so close to my original vision that I just kind of like assumed, as naive as it was, that like I would immediately break in right after I finished that live reading of the script. And that didn't happen. I put Ether on the blacklist, and it scored 7s and a 6, which was really, really disappointing. I mean, I still feel that that's my best script, and to have it received like that sucked. And I didn't even do that until after I had done a huge query campaign, queried a bunch of managers, queried a bunch of producers, executives, a bunch of assistants. I couldn't get a read request from anybody, and it was so shitty. Especially because like the first time I broke in was with a query, so I thought surely that's going to be easier now. I've got an option under my belt, I've got all this work under my belt, I've got reentry under my belt, like people are going to want to read my scripts, and they didn't. So that was crushing, and I just felt like shit after that. Similar things were going on at my day job. It just kind of felt like I've been putting a lot of work in that hadn't been paying off, and so I was just feeling really down as a result of all of that, and I wasn't able to dig myself out. Thankfully, I've got an amazing partner in my wife, and she and I took a hike one day in like late May, and she kind of like helped me talk through some of that, and ultimately I agreed to go see a therapist for the first time in my life, and that was great. I really needed to do that. It's funny, I've never had like a stigma about other people seeing therapists, but I've always had one for me. But I finally was like, you know what, this is super unhealthy. I need to get out of this. So I did. And I want to share just one thing that came out of that, because I think a lot of people who are in like a creative space have similar, issues with depression or whatever. And so the one thing this therapist said to me was, be demanding of yourself. That's great. But also be compassionate. Like, yeah, it's okay to demand like really high levels of craft and commitment and hard work. It's okay to demand that of yourself. I mean, that's what's going to result in greatness, right? But like, we're all human. We're all going to fuck up. And you also need to be compassionate to yourself. Like, I've got a lot of incredibly talented friends, and none of them are perfect. And if one of them fucks up, like, it's very easy for me to be like, hey, it's all right. Like, I mean, this is just like a little misstep in a long, long career that you've got, and your best work and your biggest successes are still to come. Those are right around the corner. And those are the type of things that I wasn't saying to myself that I needed to be saying to myself in order to stay in a like positive and productive mindset. And so I've been leaning on that a lot, just being demanding of myself, but also being compassionate, and just saying, you know what, like, fucked up, but I'll pick it up and I'll be better tomorrow. And that's been great. So, if that's helpful to you, I hope that you can take it away and do something with it. But anyway, this has been a wild year. It's been a great year. I'm really thankful for it. I've gained so much from it. It wouldn't have been possible without all of the help that I've had along the way. I've had so much support from every single person that I interviewed in Reentry, and other people who mentored me along the way, and the cast who was part of the live reading, and the people who've kind of helped me get my scripts in front of other people, and also just like everybody who's been supporting this entire process, which has been really public and weird and vulnerable. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And obviously a huge thanks to my family for supporting me through all of it. So yeah, I rebroke in. It's exciting. It's like the very first step in a long, arduous grind, I'm sure. There's a big gap between where I am now and actually getting movies made and turning that into a true career. But it's exciting. I'm pumped. And I want to pay it forward as much as I can. So I've got some ideas for future episodes. I'm not going to be dropping them every single week like I was last time. I just don't have the time or bandwidth for that, but they are coming. So make sure you subscribe, check them out. I'm going to be doing, deep dives into many insights that I've had in the last few months that I hope will be helpful. And on that note, fade out. Nah, fuck it. Smash cut to black.